How's it going? What I'm going to be doing today is looking at a bunch of hip hop albums. And I care less about hip hop with every year that goes by, but my teenage years and my 20s, I still love that stuff. And this time of year in May, that's when I've always had a real taste for Houston hip hop. And I got a million CDRs of this stuff, but I'm just going to take a look at the CDs that I have at arm's length today. And I'm going to make 3 of these. So, Houston rap, and here we go. So the first one I have here is My Personal Screw Tape by Point Blank. This is on Reckless Entertainment, 2003. So Point Blank was one of the members of the Screwed Up Clique. If you didn't know, DJ Screw, he is the DJ that slowed things down, added in different elements, blended things. He was the one that originated that style. And he had a collection of rappers that would be on his mixtapes that were sold on the streets and out of car trunks and at shops around Houston and the entire US at the time. So this was after DJ Screw died, but one of his favorite rappers, Point Blank, put out an album just with Screwed and Chopped stuff. Done actually by DJ Screw himself, because there's a million imitators. But my favorite song on here is My Mind Went Blank. This is Slim Thug, already platinum. Don't know if it was his first full-length album, but his first major label full-length album at least. And this came out 2005 on Geffen and Star Trek, which was the Neptunes label, Pharrell and the other guy. So who's on here? You got Bun B, T.I., Pharrell, Jazzy Faye. Those are the big names on here. There's a bonus CP as well. And I always liked Slim Thug's old stuff. He was more associated with Swisha House, which was another Screwed and Chopped style label, but they came after Screwed Up Clique. But this album here, I didn't think was great. Willie D, loved by few, hated by many. As you probably know, Willie D was one of the original members of the Ghetto Boys. And this was his last album, at least that came out on a high profile on Rap-A-Lot in 2000. And this album here, I think my favorite song on here is probably Wet 'Em and You Special. But I really wanted to like this album more than I did, but overall it's pretty average. The legendary Scarface, The Last of a Dying Breed. This came out in 2000, and at the time it was his retirement album, although that did not last long at all. I have a lot of memories of this. This was just, I don't know, just those albums that remind you of times in your life when you're on the bus a lot. And I remember I listened to this on the bus a lot. My favorite song here is for sure In and Out with Too Short and Devin the Dude. And I'm not going to be talking about any of Devin the Dude records. I'm a huge fan of his, but I think I only have one physical CD, and I've already talked about that. This is an album or two before The Last of a Dying Breed. This is Scarface, My Homies. It's a double album, but is it a real Scarface album? Not really. Scarface is probably on half the tracks here. And more than anything, it is a Rap-A-Lot compilation album. But most of this music is, if not all, is unique to the CD. And the Scarface songs are fresh Scarface songs. You're not going to be getting a bunch of old stuff. But this is a really good one. The title track, My Homies. Southside Houston with Devin and Tila. Too Real with UGK. Overnight with Do or Die. No, some of these Devin the Dude albums are actually on his first album. In My Blood with Yuckmouth, Big Mike. I go on and on. This is a great album with lots of variety on it. UGK for Life. This came out in 2009. And UGK is not a group from Houston. They're from Port Arthur, which is a smaller town, which I believe is pretty close to Houston. I always get this one confused with the double album that I think came after. The Game Been Good to Me. That's my favorite on here. Lil Flip, Underground Legend. I think this is his second full-length album, but his major label debut on Columbia Loud and the label he was associated with before, Sucka Free Records. I'm gonna go with What I've Been Through, Make Mama Proud, and I Should Have Listened. People have mixed feelings about Lil Flip. He had that whole beef with T.I. back in the day, and it seems like he lost a lot of his fan base kind of overnight. But he did put out a couple great albums after this, so I shouldn't say that. But he did seem to be more popular than T.I., and T.I. kind of took his spot, but that's the whole thing. Never been a T.I. fan. I got a couple albums. Maybe I'll bring him out one day, but I always thought he was boring. Lil Flip's way better. Chameleon Air, The Sound of Revenge. So this was, I guess this was his first major label solo album, and this was after he and Paul Wall broke up. So Chameleon Air and Paul Wall, they had a group together that was very popular in the underground. What was their album, their underground album that got the most attention? I think it was called Get Your Mind Correct. I think so. But that was a great album, and another album that friend of mine back in the day kind of bonded over. But yeah, Paul Wall's not on here, so this was definitely the fallout, and I guess The Sound of Revenge alludes to that. But yeah, Pastor Troy, Killer Mike, Bun B, Lil Wayne, Scarface. So not a lot of Houston names on here. It seems to me like Paul Wall kind of stayed closer to his roots in Houston, and Chameleon Air worked with some bigger names, and I don't even know if he's doing music anymore. Sounds like he made a bunch of money in the tech industry or something. He invested his money well, and he's not too worried about rapping anymore. But the first single here, Turn It Up, a Lil Flip, that's still a catchy song. I still like that one. So speaking of, this is Paul Wall, the People's Champ. This was what years were these? They were both 2005. And this was Paul Wall's first solo album. He had a million mixtapes before this. And this was on Swishahouse. So again, this is a more Houston-oriented album. I always like Just Paul Wall, the last song. Sitting Sideways with Big Pokey, that was the single. Freeway, 3-6 Mafia, Mike Jones, they're all on here. Solid release. And finally, this is called Southern Lean, Screwed and Chopped. So it's a double release, a compilation of sorts, one regular speed, one Screwed and Chopped. Now you have Chameleon Air, Magno, and Agony Life on the front cover. And I haven't listened to this in ages, but I'm looking at the song titles: Back Back, Swangin' and Bangin', Knocking Pictures Off the Wall, Who Dat Talking Down, Purple Stuff, Country Rap Tunes. These are all the titles of old school Houston classics. So I'm gonna have to assume that it's these guys rapping over the beats of those classics. But again, I haven't put this one on in a long time. So that's it. I'm going to turn this off and make a couple more. Thanks for watching.